You have become famous, or perhaps some people might say notorious, in India and in America also to a very considerable degree, for saying that the spiritual quest is a load of nonsense, that the gurus and spiritual teachers are con men and so on. Now, you've now come to Australia, and particularly to the city of Sydney, where it is said that people here don't ask what is the meaning of life, they ask where can I find waterfront property. And in Australia, people who are on what might be called a spiritual quest of some kind, following meditation or looking for some kind of enlightenment, are very much a minority who feel themselves to be breaking out from a very heavy culture in which most people never think beyond the first football match or the next football match or the next beer, and the educated ones spend all their time talking about politics or the stock market. Now, in this sort of situation, would you still say that the people who are looking for some different sort of culture, a more spiritual culture, are on a completely false line?
What I emphasize to those seekers who come to see me is what makes them think that they are superior to others who are pursuing sensual experiences. They want to feel that they are superior to others, and these so-called religious experiences are no different from any other experiences. The instrument which we all use to experience is born out of sensuality. So the mind can survive only through the constant demand to experience the same things again and again and again. But I don't see any reason why they should feel superior to those who are pursuing the material goals. Basically, all goals are the same. The instrument which we use to achieve our goals is matter, which is thought. They may say that they are pursuing spiritual goals, but the instrument is exactly the same. And their interest in achieving their spiritual goals is also to better their material needs. I don't know if I make this sense. But that's the reason why I say that there is no reason for them to feel superior to others who are interested in buying waterfront penthouse or even a higher skyscraper. What do you call this? Penthouse, I suppose, is the top one. And what makes them think that they are different and better than those people who are pursuing the ordinary pursuits of life?
Our great comedian Dame Edna Everage recently said that her husband's motto was that you're nearer to God in a penthouse than anywhere else on earth. Would you say that's in fact?
Fortunately, she was not a woman, but she was a man.
But you wouldn't think there was anything wrong with that, or anything wronger with that than anything else?
See, your heaven is the highest penthouse that you can imagine. So those who are interested in reaching heaven, creating heaven on the face of this earth, are responsible for turning this paradise, nature's creation, unparalleled paradise, into hell.
And
we are not going to succeed to create heaven on this earth. That's all. So there's another kind of a penthouse, higher and higher. I don't know if at all it exists anywhere.
So you wouldn't say that they were worse, but they're just pursuing a similar thing.
They are no different from others who are pursuing the pleasure, you see. So God, truth, reality, whatever you want to call it, is the ultimate pleasure. And we are not ready to accept that. That is the ultimate pleasure.
Now, if they did accept it, what would happen then? Do you think they would in some way stop, think again, or become like the...
No. If this is the only reality and there is no such thing as ultimate reality, it is easy to function in this world very efficiently. So there is no reality at all as far as I am concerned. there is no way you can experience the reality of anything, the fact that you are sitting next to me or that there is somebody here talking. Even this reality which we take for granted, we have no way of experiencing this. So, but we have to accept the reality of the world as it is imposed on us. And if we don't, we will end up, you see, the loony bin. But we have to accept to function sanely and intelligently in this world. That helps us to fit into this reality of the world as it is imposed on us. When once we are freed from the demand to be something other than what we actually are, and if that energy is released, it becomes very, very simple and easy for us to function in this world sanely and intelligently. That's all that I'm pointing out.
Well, that's very interesting. I've heard you make rather rude remarks about such things as health foods and so on. Would you say that certain kinds of diet leave the body more natural than others, make it function more naturally?
I don't think that the demand for very nutritious and healthy food is no different from the demand to have varieties of girls or varieties of men for your food. You may not like it, but when once you have everything that you need or ask for is there, the question arises, is that all? When you lose faith in something beyond, this becomes so very important to us. The moment you are concerned about, you see, health food, that is the beginning of the sickness. One who is healthy will never think in terms of health food at all.
You would think just in terms of common sense.
What we need is some energy for this body. That's all that is necessary for this body. And that's why the nutritionists very often think that I am very crazy when I say that this body can survive on sawdust and glue. The glue is for giving some flavor to the sawdust. When I made this statement to a friend of mine who is considered to be a top nutritionist, he said that chap is talking some nonsense, absolute rubbish. There was one Russian woman who lived in Leningrad during the Leningrad siege. She said, I survived on that kind of food, even worse food than that. I could eat anything. I had no health problems there. Now I live in the United States and I eat food. It's a very nutritious food, rich food. I am sick all the time, she said.
Isn't that interesting?
No, he said, I'm not recommending this to anybody. See, what is possible for me must be possible for somebody else also. What's wrong with me? I'm 72 years old. I eat very little food, and what I need food for is to give energy to this body.
Probably just...
So when once, you see, the pleasure movement is not there, the varieties of food also disappear with it. That's all that I'm saying. I'm not for a moment saying that you should free yourself from the pursuit of pleasure. But all are the same. Whether you pursue God or enlightenment or ultimate reality, or you see perfect, well-balanced, natural food or healthy food, they're all the same.
Yes,
The society may consider that certain actions of ours are not socially acceptable, certain other actions are socially acceptable. So what is wrong with, you see, a man wanting varieties of men, varieties of girls for fun? And so you don't want to place the demand for varieties of food on the same level as them. But basically, essentially and fundamentally, the demand for varieties of food is no different from a man demanding to have fun with varieties of girls or a woman demanding to have fun with varieties of men.
Certainly.
I'm not a very serious man. This is not a very serious discussion.
Well, it seems a great deal of simple, straightforward common sense and honesty is what you're recommending. The thing that...
I'm not recommending anything. I'm not recommending
saying?
anything. I'm not interested in freeing anybody from anything. See, as a matter of fact, those people who are after or pursuing the permanent pleasure, that's all that they are interested in, permanent happiness, will be better off hanging around gurus than coming to visit me. They are not going to get anything here. This is not what they are interested in. So they are interested in some comforters And they are providing them with those comforters and they charge. That's all. They will be better off there than coming here. I am not interested in freeing them from their gurus at all. There is a demand for these gurus. There is a market for this kind of a thing. That is why they are flourishing everywhere. I am not marketing anything. If you are really interested in understanding what really the problem is, why we are pursuing all these things, why you are interested in the quest for permanent happiness, why you are interested in the quest for permanent pleasure, is all that I am interested in pointing out. See, the instrument that is involved in this demand and attaining the goals which we are interested in is not the instrument to achieve that goal, the thought. That is the reason why I say, emphasize all the time, over and over again, ad nauseum, that thought is fascist in its nature, in its content, in its expression, and in its action. Because it wants to control, shape everything to protect itself. It's all that it is interested in. So we are not ready to accept that instrument, thought, or whatever you want to call it, the mind, can only create problems, cannot help us to solve the problems. And I'm talking all the time. This
that's
is
all
supposed to
right.
be a conversation.
That's what we're for, talking all the time. That's okay. If you described, I've heard recordings and things of you describing a time in your own life which you call the calamity, because you say it didn't, all the things you'd been expecting and striving for up to that were suddenly shattered. And that was very much what you described, as I understand it, as a return to the really natural state of the body with its natural functioning of a kind that most of us are unable to see at all.
When I use the phrase the natural state, they always put that in the framework of enlightenment or some such thing, or God realization or self-realization. But when I use that phrase natural state, I am referring only to the natural functioning of this living organism. When once this is freed from the stranglehold of the culture, the value system, it begins to function in a very natural way. It is freed from, I don't like to use the word freed, but for want of a more expressive, meaningful word, let me use free, quote unquote, from this totality of man's thoughts and experiences felt by everybody before you. Then what it is left with is this extraordinary living quality, and it relies for its functioning sanely and intelligently on the sensory perceptions and not the sensual activity of the mind. The mind is only interested in sensual activity. So anything you are interested in, whether it is a spiritual goal or material goal, it always falls in the area of sensuality. We are not ready to accept it. When once it is freed from that, its only interest is to function very efficiently and uses senses to, I don't like to use the word experiences, very efficiently.
Functions is a good word.
Functions very efficiently. It is all, what all it is interested in is not the demand for permanence, but to live from moment to moment. It is the body that is functioning from moment to moment.
And it's
because
already...
the sensory activity is always in frames, So there is no continuity, there is no demand for permanence there. So whereas your mind or your spiritual pursuits or the demand for permanent happiness is interested in permanence, there is no such thing as permanence at all. It's constantly changing. The body takes its birth all the time and it is dying all the time. So birth and death is a simultaneous process for this body. When once a stage reaches, when the body cannot renew itself, it goes through a process called the clinical death. So actually there is no birth for this body, so there can't be any death for this body. We are interested in only experiencing what we call death. You are not going to preside over your own death, the death of this body. So nothing will be there. The experiencing structure has first got to come to an end before what we call clinical death takes place. So it is not the death that we experience, it is the ending of you as you know yourself and as you experience yourself. If for some reason some individual captures that, you see, within the framework of his experiencing structure, the fear of coming to an end, which is defined as death, it becomes part of our experiencing structure. But that experience is something extraordinary, you know. So it is something like any other mystical experience. So that helps us to look at things differently, to feel things differently, to experience things differently. That is all that it can do. But what is called death is just a name given to the condition of the body. See, what we experience is not our death. It is not the death of our fellow being, whom we call a dead person, a corpse. What we experience is the void created by the demise of that particular individual and the impossibility of maintaining the same relationship from then on. So that is what we call death, but death can never be experienced because the body has no such thing as death.
Now, the interesting thing that I heard about your first transition to this natural state was that it was, for you, very painful in many respects.
You see, this is something that lately I have been using this as simile because I happened to be in the United States when this earthquake hit California. It is something like an earthquake. When once it hits, it is not for the benefit of people who have lost their near and dear ones. It's not for the benefit of those people who have lost everything, their properties and everything. So, but that is from the nature's point of view, if I may put it that way, it is trying to readjust itself to a new sort of equilibrium. When once through some strange chance or luck or whatever word you want to use, this is freed from the stranglehold of the thought and its machinations, it has to readjust itself to a new way of functioning. It's a very, very painful process. It can put an end to you. You may not come back. The body may not, you see, be able to survive even. It's so shattering a blow, just like the shaft of a lightning hitting. And what is left after that is something which you have no way of finding out for yourself or give expression. The separateness from the totality of life around is not there anymore. We feel separate from, see, the life around us through the help of thought, through the help of knowledge we have. When once you see that movement of knowledge which separates you from the totality of things is not there, you have no way of experiencing the fact that you are alive or dead. You may say that I am alive, I am talking, I am responding to your questions. What I am saying is intelligent enough for you to understand. I don't know if it is intelligent enough for very intelligent people to make any sense out of this. But you are the one that is creating me. I have no way of creating this anymore through the help of my senses, because senses cannot create the totality of the body. The coordinator, which was an artificial coordinator there, is gone. So the sensory activity is a disconnected, disjointed one. Each one is functioning independently. So there is no way you can make any way you can create the totality of this body and experience the body. So that's the reason why I say that you are the one that is creating me. I have no image of myself. Even if I artificially create an image of myself and try to experience it, it is not there the next one. Since I have no image of my own, there is no way I can have the image of anybody.
Now, this is very interesting because the fact is that I, sitting here, and anyone else watching this program would still say that in spite of this, there's no doubt at all that you're a sane person. Whereas what you are describing could very easily be mistaken for a description of madness. Would you say, how would you say that the very sane person I see sitting here, I create sitting here, is different from a schizophrenic?
I think, you see, the line of demarcation between the madman and this individual sitting here is, the line of demarcation is very, very thin. Very, very thin. But the only difference seems to be between a raving maniac and this, who is also a raving maniac of some sort, is that he is not in conflict with the society around him. Not that, you see, this individual has accepted the world as it is, not in conflict with the society around him because the world cannot be any different. So there is no attempt on my part to fit into that value system or the society created by our culture. Knowing very well that this is a mad world we are living in, but there is nothing that we can do about it. And once the demand to change something here, the demand to change the world around you also comes to you.
So that the madman is probably still trying to change something here or something out there. It's just not going there.
I think we are solely and wholly responsible for those pushing those people to become functional. You see, they have given up. And our interest is to see that they become functional so that the society can go on. We are actually, factually pushing them to commit suicide. We are responsible for that. They don't want, you see, to fit into that framework, the value system which we have created.
Now, this is a reason I asked this question, and one reason why your arrival in Sydney at this moment is so very opportune, is that there is just forming here in Sydney a group of psychiatrists and psychotherapists of various kinds who find themselves confronted with large numbers of people who have broken out from the materialistic culture, just to use that phrase, have started various kinds of spiritual exercises, and almost immediately, while many of them go off into months and months of meditation, nothing much happens, some get struck with something like your earthquake. And the psychiatrist wants to know what to do. Should he pump him full of drugs? It isn't that the psychiatrist tries to control them. They go to him.
Well, the basic question which we all have to ask is, what kind of a human being you want in this world? What kind of a
So the psychiatrist has to ask that first.
Ask that question. Yes. So we have unfortunately placed before mankind the model of a perfect being. That perfect being is the spiritual teacher and his behavior patterns. And the whole value system is born out of it. And our insistence and demand on the part of the culture and the value system to fit them all into that mold is bound to fail. Because every individual is unique. Unique.
Yes.
Nature is not interested in creating the human species in one common mode. It is interested in creating different species. It does not use anything as a model. That's where we have gone wrong. Because of the fear that the status quo of our culture or society or whatever you want to call it cannot be maintained if we do not fit all these people into that value system. I'm not against the value system at all. The demand to fit everybody into a common mold, which is the value system, is responsible for the breaking up of all those, breaking down of many people here. They have given. And the so-called normal man, if there is any, he lives in hope and dies in hope. One day he is going to successfully fit himself into that value system, very successfully, and live in harmony with them. And the mad people have given up, and so we are pushing them to make them functional, and it is that very thing that is pushing them to suicide. So if there is anybody in whom this kind of a calamity, or whatever word you want to use, occurred, is not in conflict with the society. society cannot be any different.
So insofar as one does anything and leaves them alone and think it might sort itself out.
We cannot leave them alone. They are happy and they are content with themselves. And why? We should push them to become functional. So that's our problem. So some of these psychiatrists who come to see me, I pose this question to them. And one of the top neurosurgeons visited me. We had a long conversation. And I asked him this question: who is normal according to you? You or your patient who comes for your help? He said, statistically speaking, we are normal. There is no such thing as a normal person. No. And then why the hell you are running that institute? For whose benefit? The families do not want those people. They push them here. And the help they can get from us is not even 2%. So it is a living for you to accept that. True. And what you are saying seems to be very true, very correct. But we want to believe that you are wrong. Because it's very dangerous what you are saying. So my interest in pointing to those people, the scientists or the psychologists, they have come to the end of their tether. But if they are interested in solving their problems, they have to solve the problems within that framework and not look to these religious people who don't have any answers for them. Let them do what they like. Let them sell those shoddy pieces of goods in the marketplace, thrive on the gullibility and credulity of the people. There is a sort of void created in our society today. And I maintain all the political systems are nothing but the warty outgrowth of the same religious thinking of man. There is a danger when all these ideologies fail to deliver the goods. The religious people will step into that void created and destroy the possibility of finding if we have any answers to solve our problems, which are responsible because of the religious thinking of man and all the other systems, even our value system, our legal structure, everything is born out of the religious thinking of man. It has not helped us to understand and function in this world sanely and intelligently. It is that is responsible for the problems. It is that has created the problems and why we want to fit ourselves into the frame.
Would you say that I would certainly agree with most of what you're saying about that, and pointing out, as you do so relentlessly, that religious and spiritual systems are just another form of ideology is, I think, very good. Would you say that so-called primitive or tribal peoples are likely to therefore be living closer to the natural state than we are, or not?
No, I don't think so. There is no way we can go back to their way of life and their way of thinking. That's the reason why I very often say the caveman, when he used the jawbone of an ass to destroy his neighbor for whatever reason, he laid the foundation for all the atomic weapons which we have invented.
The trouble had already started.
It's an extension of the same.
Yes.
So when I met Bertrand Russell, you see, who was lost in his Peace Foundation, Bertrand Russell Peace Foundation and all that kind of a thing, and anti-bomb and all that, I asked him a question. How can you, are you ready to do away with the policeman? The hydrogen bomb is an extension of the policeman. Are you ready? No. You have to draw the line somewhere, see. And the moment you introduce one of degree, we get into trouble. So are we ready? I'm not for a moment saying that, you see, you should do away with the police. It's an extension of the same. So how are we going to resolve this problem? It's not so easy.
I'm sure it's not easy.
So if the humanity is to be saved from the chaos of its own making, it has to find some kind of answers, not new ideas, new way of thinking, or go back, you see, back to Christianity, back to the ancient heritage of this country, that country. They have all failed.
Yes.
So if we cannot come up with answers for our questions, we are lost.
So,
lost.
in fact, I think a lot of the people who have become seekers are really trying to find something new. Then what you're saying is that they're looking in the wrong direction
No, it's not.
altogether.
They are looking for help to people who cannot be of any help to us.
One thing that you said a little while ago was that the body, once one gets the thought out of the way and the body is there, and it has no, you don't have to realize a relationship between the body and the rest of the universe. It's already related.
It is one. So hurting your neighbor, fellow being, is hurting yourself. That's why I always give the simile of the cellular structure of your body. The cells are not interested in oneness of life, unity of life, brotherhood, love thy neighbor as thyself. It is those that are responsible for all the misery in this world.
So trying to impose it.
Impose love thy neighbor as thyself.
As an outside thing.
Has killed millions and millions of more people than all the recent wars put together. But the survival of this particular cell depends upon the survival of the cell that is next to it. It has to cooperate there.
And would you say that...
So hurting my fellow being is hurting myself.
Sure, yeah.
Not psychologically, not romantically, not poetically. It is physically hurting me. Then I will not hurt my fellow being.
Now, is there in that body a direct awareness of that fact?
Awareness...
direct reaction?
I don't know, I have some difficulty to accept that word awareness.
Oh,
See, awareness is an integral part or the integral part of the activity of the brain.
Sure.
So it cannot be separated from the activity of the brain and use it as an instrument to bring about any change.
No,
that is the reason why I mentioned that, you see, all the animals are choicelessly aware. See, that is not an instrument to help us to bring about any change. What I am emphasizing is that there is nothing to be changed here.
Not already. It's already.
It is not interested in knowing anything. It is not interested in learning anything from our ideas of how to keep the body healthy.
Now, would you say that people who get psychic, so-called psychic perceptions, were tuning in somehow a bit, just a little bit, to that non-duality, but then tying it up again into the world of thought?
When once this structure is not caught up in that duality, these questions don't arise at all. The psychic, you see, all the animals are psychic. They are clairvoyant.
Yes.
They are very clairvoyant. But we have unfortunately made them into spiritual experiences. See. So that they are very essential for the survival of this living organism. It is not for any other purpose. You know, they are extraordinarily clairvoyant. I don't like to use the word clairvoyant, but all those things are necessary for the survival of the living organism.
No,
If in some individuals the thought slows down, they experience these things and attribute them to some spiritual qualities, but basically that is no different from any other functioning of this body.
It's just like
So when I go for a walk with my
yes.
friends, for example, this lady, just look, I say, don't think. Thinking frightens you. If you depend upon your sensory activity, it is a lot easier to function very efficiently there. As I was saying the other day, when you are crossing the road, the vibration of the automobile there, sets this body in the same vibration. The smell of the gasoline, it measures the distance. The eye measures the distance. So it's like a dog trying to cross the road, see, without any problem there. The moment you see, you think that you will be run over by the car, you have created a problem. You are a frightened person. You see, you are creating a problem for yourself and a problem for the dog. So there is a chance that the dogs also will get killed, but in most cases, the only way you can function very efficiently is to depend upon your senses rather than think about these things.
And the trouble is, as you say, that most of us are not in touch with,
that reality
degree of sensual
You
reality.
don't have to do a thing about it. Its interest is survival under any circumstances. To survive and to reproduce one like this. It's not interested in any other activity. It is not interested in spiritual experiences at all.
Now, would you say that you have said, I think, that in a sense this is a constant process of dying that goes on, and the people that I've met who seem to also have had something of the same collapse out of thought into this kind of awareness. For the first stages of it, as you yourself said, it was very painful, the earthquake. They often are very upset and unable to cope in the world. One lady said she found herself putting the slippers in the refrigerator.
They are just tremors.
That's a tremor stage.
The tremors do not indicate that there is going to be an earthquake.
But once the earthquake
we would
is
love to think that the earthquake, no seismologist can predict with exactness and precision when an earthquake is going to occur. They are all talking of the big earthquake in California, but when actually it hits, nobody would know in advance. So I'm not, you can't be prepared for that kind of a thing.
So you then have somehow the fact of what has happened is not that your thought has deserted you. I mean, you think brilliantly, obviously, but it is not strangling you. It is used when you need it. It comes out when you need it, and not before.
Not me. I am not.
Well,
you.
U.G.
You are
in response to me.
Yes. In response to you. This is I was telling, and just before we started this, you are the ventriloquist. You see. So you are. It looks as if I am giving the answers, but actually the answers are yours. So all the questions are born out of the answers you already have, and the answers you think I am giving are your own answers.
Well, that's very flattering, and I would love.
So that's the reason.
If you ever want a job as a ventriloquist dummy, you know where to come. So would you be able? And what I like about the way you do this is that you take a word and you know it's going to be misleading, but you nevertheless put it in inverted commas and use it in a way that gives people a feeling. It's as best you can. It's very difficult to do, to give a feeling of what it's like. Can you give say anything more about this feeling that you've tried to convey by things happening in frames? Is that anything to do with the fact that the body is dying and coming back, dying and coming back all the time?
Every time the thought is born, you are born. Thought is matter. So it is the matter that creates this body. But the matter cannot remain as matter for long. It has to become part of the energy. So thought also is energy. When once you give substance to the thought and maintain the continuity of it so that you can maintain your identity forever, the possibility of that is becoming part of energy is lost. So
it's the search for permanence, as you said.
The demand for permanence is the cause of man's tragedy.
William Blake, the poet, said has a character in one of his poems who represents the power of thought, and he says that I sought for a joy without pain and for a solid without fluctuation, and that's the way to disaster, as you say.
That's just poetry and romantic stuff.
But would you say, surely an animal is also an animal withdraws from pain, doesn't it?
It knows how to protect itself.
Yes.
Pain is the healer. We are not ready to accept that.
Would you say a little bit more about that? Would you say a little bit more about that?
That's all that is there, the physical fear. The psychological pain is the demand to free yourself from the pain. It is that is making this simple physical pain very acute.
So, I think that it's been an extraordinarily interesting conversation, and I'm slightly boggled at the thought that I'm having it with myself, but since you say that it is part of the whole process that you, from moment to moment, you die, I think it would be very appropriate to say thank you very much, and as they say here in Australia, have a nice die.
Thank you. What we, no, you,
Have a nice day, as they say. Not
Mike, you said something is how the Australians would put it. You record it for. How would they greet each other?
Oh, how Australians greet each other. Well, I'm not Australian. I'm an Englishman, so I've only really learned to do it. They say, good day, mate. How are you?
How are you?
How are you going? Good day, mate. How are you going?
What's the answer?
Well, I think the answer is have a nice day. And but in your case, it's have a nice day.
Beautiful, mate. Good, thank you.
Beaut is the answer, yes.
Beaut is the answer.
Thank you very much.